did not know that. But we do know that he's been to heaven and come back. We do know that God had that kind of mercy, and that's the kind of mercy that covers each one of us, because try as we might, we have this brain. Or we have these feelings. And in each one of those, we may make decisions based out of loneliness, based out of greed, based out of false pride, low self-esteem, step on somebody to bring ourselves up. Those are the kinds of things that are human nature. And we may not want to do that. But we do have to say this, take our inventory well and say, oops, and then have a conviction to ask God to be merciful on us. It's not like getting beat down. It's like saying, I know your mercy is great. And it has been great. For more than 40 years, our people have wandered through the desert. Wandered through the desert. Martin Luther King Day. Wandered through the desert. We have one too. The people of color were oppressed because there was racism. And they wandered and they were not safe. And I look from our community and I go, and there's the video that says faggots stay out. There's the videos of our people meeting in the back of 18-wheelers because there's no place to go that's safe. There's our 40 years with all the fighting in Christopher Street and all that came down on everybody when people stood up and said, no more. And I started to think, what is our place that we're not free at last from? And I was talking to Pastor and I said, on this particular day, it's the closet. The closet traps us. I don't care how we each manipulate, it traps us. It keeps us from having that which is intended for a wholeness and a justness for all people. We hide and have hidden for years. No wonder they don't give us any benefits. They didn't even know we existed. We're so good. Maybe we had a marriage to cover up what the truth was. But for us, the wall that needs to be lifted is the closet. And that does not just mean GLBT people, because Martin Luther King did not get civil rights based on people of color. There was lots of white Democrats that were in there fighting too. And if the white folk hadn't joined on to kind of push some of those doors, and Republicans, all as they pushed through those doors, it wouldn't happen. They had to have the access there, just as it is now for us. We have to have people who are allies that are straight, that push doors that we can't push. That know how to speak language to people who are being intolerant or ignorant or telling horrible jokes or saying horrible slams. We need to find out our chutzpahs and get our butt out of the closet. I was thinking about when Ricky called and said that Paul and him would go to Helena, and I was so elated. And so Paul's LeBron, right? And Ricky gets all the arrangements done. So he was calling to get the apartment.
And I was surprised. Helena, the bastion of liberality that claims to be, wasn't so liberal.
No.
I had to call. Man, I must have called, I don't know how many places I called, trying to find a place to live. And I'm very honest with folks. So when I would talk to them, they said, oh, yes, we have an apartment. I go, wonderful. How much? And, okay, what do we have to do about it? And then I said, oh, by the way, I just want to be honest with you folks. It's going to be for my partner and I. We've been together for 15 years, and we're a gay couple. Is that going to be a problem?
Then it's silence.
And total silence. And then they'd go, I
just rented it out.
I go, thank you. One woman said, well, we're taking applications. I said, you're taking applications? And then she goes, and then we're going to pick the best candidates. I said, well, ma'am, according to the fair housing laws, it's not who the best candidates are. If you take my application, either you're going to accept it or you're not going to accept it. And trust me, if I gave it to you, you would accept it. But it's apparent. I know where you're coming from. I just wanted to be honest with you. Thank you for your time. You have a nice day. Yeah. And I'd hang up. 4 times, and finally I hit a 5th place, and I said, please tell me, do you have a problem with gay people? And the lady goes, oh, not at all. she goes, blah, 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 blah. And then she started telling me all about her life, who her boyfriend was, and blah, 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 blah. You know, and I felt very good. I said, thank you very much. We'll take the place. But I thought, wow, here in this day and age that we're living, man, we face so much discrimination still. And it still just kind of, you know, racks my brain. I'm thinking, why? Why? What's going on?
But I listened to his sermon, The Dream, and read it, and I did as much as I could on the Promised Land. And what I understand is, we got to come out again and again. We got to push those doors. You know, getting comfortable and crawling back in and being someone's token couple, where it feels safe, where it doesn't feel like it's a risk, it's not going to get us anywhere. It won't. I know that is scary. That moment when we say, Mom, this is my new partner. When we say, I need to have time off my significant others in the hospital. Oh, really? Well, you don't count like kids. If it was your 12-year-old, they'd say go. They might not say go to us. Amen?
That's right.
You know, how do we handle going to doctors? You know, it is a tough call. And when we push those doors open, that moment, there are consequences and there may be losses, but that is what holds us back. Why? Because we get afraid of it. You know, it's kind of like lifting weights. If you don't keep lifting weights, the muscle doesn't hold it. You have to keep practicing coming to that point, coming out in a way which is comfortable. You know, I'm not so sure that the way of surprising people, jumping in their face about it, is my way of doing that. I'm not that way. I'm not someone that would, you know, be out there doing the banner and act up and all that. I'm not that kind of person. But I can be a thorn. And that's who I am. I can sit next to people and be a thorn and know every time they brush that little tiny, you know, those little splinters that get in your finger and you can't find them from thistles, but every time you go over it. I decided I'm going to start introducing pauses in their intolerance. So, when they say the Boy Scouts will be walking us over to do the food bank walk, I go, they will. Well, hello there, young man. Would you help this queer get across the street? You know, I started to come up and leave those pauses when predominantly my brothers and sisters of clergy were forcing me to go to places that they knew had verbally spoke out against GLBT. And I started calling them on it. When they'd say 5 loaves, I'd just look at them. I started to teach them about their white privilege access as predominantly men as Christians have that I don't have. So, you know, when I went in this way, this was the come out closet for me. We went around, got to old Pastor Rob, Pastor Rick, I'm from MCC, and he's just all bubbling and everything. And I go, no, I'm Reverend Micah Hartung from Metropolitan, Senior Pastor at Metropolitan Community Church. And it was really funny because it took them half a table to get it, didn't it? It was like it went around, and it went around, and it went around. And all of a sudden, about right here, they went, oh. And I wanted it to be that way. I wanted it to just be, it was an announcement, and I wanted them to think about it. And I try to be respectful that I don't push too fast for folks, you know what I'm saying? But we've wandered in the wilderness. We've wandered. Great Falls people wandered for years. Trying to live on the dark and the night in the streets. Trying to stand a little bit forward. Sometimes being killed and sometimes being battered by our very own people. We pop our head up, it scares them, so they smash us. Amen. You know, jobs have been lost. People have been asked to leave the military, right in our congregation. We're not free yet.
doesn't stop us from having a dream. You know, Martin Luther King says, I have a dream. I've been on the mountaintop, and I've seen the promised land. And saints, that's my dream as well. I've been on the mountaintop. I've been in the valley, but you know what? I like to be on the mountaintop. And you know what? I was talking with Paul. Paul says, well, you know, Ricky, it's pretty clear. When you're down in the valley, start looking for a mountain to climb and get back on top. And I have that dream that I've been on the mountain and I've seen the promised land. And saints, the promised land is for each and every one of us. I don't care whether you're gay, lesbian, bi, transsexual, straight, because you know what? I'm thrilled by our straight allies who attend here. God bless each and every one of you, because it's just as much as a struggle is for us, I know it's a struggle for you as well. Especially when you go forth from this place and people begin to ask, where do you go to church? And you tell them, and the first thing that comes out, oh, you go to the gay church. Well, you can let them know, no, we are a church that loves Jesus. And we are people who love Jesus. And we are people who are bound for the promised land this morning, saints. And you know, all we have to do is be obedient to God. You know, that's the message for the promised land. How do we get there? Let's be obedient to God. Let's listen to what God has to say. And God says, whosoever calls upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And we are those whosoevers. You know, I like to emphasize that time and time again, because I have to keep reminding myself that time and time again, that I'm one of those whosoevers, and you're one of those whosoevers. But we just have to listen to the voice of God. And sometimes that's difficult. I'll be honest with you, it's very difficult.